The late PAC leader Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe announced that the anti-pass campaign would start on Monday, 21st March 1960, and it would be peaceful. The PAC's aim was to ensure that this was going to be the first step in black people's bid for total independence and freedom. On the 21st of March, residents of Sharpeville marched to the police station. There was no transport as bus drivers did not report for work on that day. PAC leaders first gathered on a field not far from Sharpeville police station. They then proceeded to the police station, chanting freedom songs. When they arrived at the Sharpeville police station, a strong contingent of policemen were lined up outside, many on top of armored vehicles. Later, a small scuffle started near the entrance of the police station, and the crowd moved forward to see what was happening. The police opened fire on the protesters. The firing lasted for approximately 2 minutes, leaving 69 people dead, and according to the official inquest, 180 were seriously wounded.
The one who had get injured is my husband. I was in my father's shop in Marine Cafe. So when they shot, even I told him, I say, no, don't go. Let's go home and sit in the dining room. He said, no. When the men fight, I must go sit in at your home. I know. I'm a man. I must go and shoot. I must go and fight. When he is there, just when he take a try in our shop, they shoot him. Food, spinal cord. Even now, he got a bullet in spinal cord.
Eyewitnesses say then there was no warning for the crowd to disperse. The following day, the then apartheid Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd praised the police and claimed that protesters shot first. He declared a state of emergency. Robert Sobukwe and the others were charged.
Even if Sobukwe could have said that time that take them, we could have started fighting there and there. He had that magnetic force. You could feel it, You could feel it when he was just standing there, not talking, just looking at you. We felt there's something here. He was strong. Even the boys knew. We used to come there, they would just say, hey, please tell. If he's inside the house, they say, please tell. They would just pass through quiet there. They didn't want us to wake him up because when he comes out, he was a force, that man.
The massacre of innocent people in Sharpeville led to the historic move where the representatives of 29 African and Asian member states at the UN requested an urgent meeting of the United Nations Security Council to consider the situation arising out of the large-scale killings of unarmed and peaceful demonstrators against the racial discrimination and segregation in the Union of South Africa. On the 28th March 1960, the ANC also called a nationwide stay-at-home in protest against the events in Sharpeville. Passbooks were banned across the country. After Sharpeville, the ANC instructed Oliver Tambo to leave South Africa to lobby the international community for the intensification of economic and political sanctions. And locally, another consequence of Sharpeville was the government's banning of both the ANC and the PAC. This was followed by a more brutal, intensified phase of repression, which saw the declaration of state of emergency and the detention of around 11,000 people at that time. The massacre was one of the catalysts for a shift from passive resistance to an armed struggle, and saw the founding of POCO, the military wing of the PAC, and Umkhonto weSizwe, the military wing of the ANC. The Sharpeville incident also changed the worldwide view of South Africa. On April 1960, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution condemning the killings and calling for the South African government to abandon its policy of apartheid. A month later, the UN General Assembly declared that apartheid was in violation of the UN Charter. Opposition to apartheid within the UN grew. In 1966, the General Assembly proclaimed 21 March as the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, to be commemorated annually. And in 1973, a UN resolution labeled apartheid as a crime against humanity. In 1974, South Africa was suspended from the General Assembly. After the first democratic elections in 1994, the new government in South Africa declared the 21st March will be commemorated as a public holiday known as Human Rights Day. However, the PAC and the other organizations were opposed to this. In 1996, South Africa enacted a new constitution that enshrines the rights and freedoms of all people. It was signed by President Nelson Mandela in Sharpeville on the 10th December 1996. 63 years since the Sharpeville massacre, how much has changed? South Africa is still besieged with many challenges. In 2008, the then minister, Professor Kada Asmal, had this to say.
You must never give any government, any institution, unlimited powers. That's very different. And that's why unlimited powers are dangerous as such, not because people are bad, not because evil. Power without limit is giving power to human beings which they can exercise in their own discretion. And that is why you must have rules that bind those people with powers, isn't that so? And one of the important rules is corruption. In a democracy, corruption destroys the democratic order. Right? So if you had institutions without restriction of power, then they can use that power for their own pockets, for their own selves. Forward to a world which is a melange, a mixture, miscegenation, putting everything together in one pot and making all the differences virtually disappear. Because in the end, we'll live up to what the editor said, we come from one person, from one part of the world. And therefore, distinctions and differences are socially organized. Now remember that. Racism is socially organized, primitive form of social organization. And we must fight it all the time in different ways.
Service delivery is still a huge challenge in rural areas. She is saying the area is not clean. They are exposed to diseases. He is saying that they are struggling with water supply.
Government is not doing anything to fulfill the rights that we promised, because, for example, we're university students, we're not registered, we're still not cleared, but we were funded by NSFAS on the previous years. Now we're being told that we need to pay some amounts that we don't even have.
We're afraid to be walking in the streets even during the day because we're not safe. And not only in town, also even around our homes, because people are able to come into our houses, or even like in the pavement around our houses, people can just take you, rape you, or kill you, or sell you, and all of that. So I feel like as a young person, a young female in South Africa, I feel like there's a lot more that can be done to change whatever it is that's happening right now.
On the 21st of March is one of those days that reminds us of the past, that actually we need actually to educate our children to moving forward.
Human Rights Day, celebrate. President
Some political parties want the day to be called Sharpeville Day. The debate is still raging on. For other parties, it must remain Human Rights Day. Sophie Mukwena, SABC News, Johannesburg.